Ryan, great to see you, man. Welcome to Popternative.
Thank you for having me, my man. Appreciate it.
You know, I remember when Fear Street Prom Queen was announced, because there's always that big announcement, right? Even before you even have a chance to like tape for it, right? There's that announcement that we're getting more Fear Street. It's coming out this week. Like, is it starting to sink in that people are going to be able to see what you worked on?
Yeah, it's mad trippy. I've seen the movie twice now, and it's like, oh crap, it's real. It's actually about to be here, and everybody's about to lock in on Friday and watch it.
So at some point, you're going to get, you're going to get that news that you booked the role and that you're going to be, joining Shadyside and everything and being part of the Fear Street world. I feel like there's familiar territory and unfamiliar territory anytime you kind of are part of something that has original source material like this, because we know the world of Fear Street from the past movies, the books and everything, but we also have never seen these characters in a live action component on Netflix before. So do you think about that kind of ping pong match, or the fact that you're in a unique casting situation because people know what's going on, but at the same time they don't? Like, it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, I mean, even when I got, to be honest with you, when I got it originally, like the original audition, I didn't even know it was Fear Street. Like all I had was Prom Queen. So I was like, oh, I didn't even know. I had no idea what I was walking into until after I had booked it, and then I saw the email that it was Fear Street, and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. Yeah, I'm like, I love Fear Street. I'm really ready to just kind of jump into this universe, and so I felt so much joy and gratitude, but also I felt a little bit of nerves because I'm like, oh, bro, people like are serious about their Fear Street, you know?
Absolutely. What is that script to screen like journey for you? Because at some point you get the script and you read it, you see everything that kind of happens, and then it comes to life slowly while you start production for the film, right? So I'm curious for you, like specifically with the kills, because it's a slasher, it's a Fear Street movie, a lot of kills. What was that script to screen like journey with like reading the kills? And then seeing what you saw, maybe in Video Village or whatever, because a lot of effects too, but like, what was that like for you with the kills specifically? That script to screen journey.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's some kills that happen in this movie, as you're aware of, and like there's one moment where a character, their death comes literally by surprise, and I remember reading it, and I'm like, oh, like I wonder how they're gonna do it. And on the day, I was kind of walking by Video Village, and then like I just turned the corner, and then I heard the screams, and I was like, oh my God, and like everybody was talking about it after, and I was kind of mad that I missed it. I heard the scream, but I missed it, and I was like, oh. So then I wasn't able to see it until the final product, but like seeing how it went um from like the edit, or from how they had filmed it, to then it being what it was on the final edit that we got to watch,
Mhm.
dude. It I'm very impressed with the effects, and there's a lot of practical effects in this
Yep.
movie as well that they do. So it's like a little bit of CGI VFX, but for the most part, majority of it is practical. So it's such a blessing to be able to see that shift over.
What would you say was your mindset for like stepping back in time for a role, going back to the 80s? Because I feel like there's a lot at play. There's a lot
Mhm.
of ways you can kind of tackle that, so to speak, right? Like you can think about what the sets are going to look like. You could think about the music that's being played. What was that like for you? Like, was there one thing you kind of focused on in terms of going back to the 80s?
Yeah, so a big thing for me is I actually created a playlist specifically
Of
for my
course.
character Chad, and like I was literally listening to just music that I thought he would be listening to, and it was
Right.
all like late 70s, early 80s music, and I was just kind of just cycling
You
through
got to
that. I
name
didn't.
some tracks on it.
Oh
Like,
man, I did like Take Me On. You know
yeah,
what?
you
I
can't
got
you can't just say I have a playlist. I'm Petey Beats, man. Music's my thing, man. Like you
Okay,
can't
let me
just.
let me pull up the actual playlist that I
Well, I made
had.
a
Okay,
playlist, and I'm
like.
just gonna casually just not tell him the song.
No, I had like a pretty, I had, okay, so I had some, like, I had Flock of
Of
Seagulls.
course,
I
I
had some
ran so
Diana
far away. Of
Ross. Some
course,
Diana Ross was on there. I had
nice.
some Bill Weathers,
Of course,
Johnny Gill. So yeah,
yeah,
like I had the whole playlist.
dude. The sound of this movie is so good.
Bro, it is probably one of my favorite soundtracks I've listened to for like an
Well, I'm
80s
gonna tell you
inspired.
honestly, like by the time this interview is out, because I'm gonna put this on the weekend, the movie will be out. You know what I mean? But like, I saw it right, and then to prepare for interviews, and I've been listening to White Wedding by Billy Idol like
Yeah.
all the time now.
Yeah, it's good. The way Matt kind of had the vision, because even in the original script, he had it broken down of like where he wanted certain songs to be playing. Like
Yeah.
even that scene at the prom, like that wasn't originally there, but I guess during the edits, they were like, "Oh, this would be a good song to start playing." And then like the way it hits, and I'm like, "Oh!" Like I remember watching it, and I was like bumping, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, we're here. We're really in the '80s. We're really
Well, I
at
feel like
prom."
it's a part of Fear Street now, the soundtracks, because the first three films that came out, like the ones that was like 1978 and everything, like
Yeah,
those had amazing soundtracks too.
yeah, they did.
So
They
I
had
feel
some
like
phenomenal.
it's like a tag team now. Like when you have a Fear Street movie, it's gonna have like an amazing
You
soundtrack.
know what you're getting exactly.
100%. I find it interesting, and you've worked on a lot of cool things, and you've worked on some projects that maybe have this like some projects have had this more than others, but I find it interesting when there's like you know objects or settings that become a character in a film, right? And I
Mm,
feel like in a lot of ways the prom, you know what I mean, becomes a character, right? Like the actual event is a character.
yeah.
Did you think about that at all? Like, did that ever come to your mind when you were reading the script while you were there? Because you're like, especially you're like Chad, like a lot. It's the prom, right? Like the whole movie, like for a lot of people, is like the prom. There's some
Yeah.
scenes in the like. So, do you think about that at all? Is the prom being a character in Fear Street Prom Queen?
I never thought about it as being a character, but it was that first week of filming, once we got into the prom hall, into the auditorium, it made me realize, oh, like we really are in prom, because we were there inside for 12, 14 hours just at prom. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, we're still at prom. How many more days? I remember I made a joke calling it promatory, like purgatory.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
crazy. Well, that's a good segue. I mean, my filmmaker hat, I guess, has this like this is my filmmaker hat speaking, but like there's some scenes that we see that are like 2-3 minute scenes, and it goes to the next scene with some dialogue, right? But those scenes might have taken, like you said, like a couple of days to film just that one scene. When that happens, Ryan, do like those big scenes that take a long time, do they feel like their own mini movie, mini project, or do they feel like overall part of Fear Street Prom Queen?
No, it definitely felt like its own project. I was like, at some points, I was like, are we still filming the same movie? Because then we would go from like prom to like a classroom setting to then being outside and shooting a lot of other different things. So yeah, it definitely felt like it being a different movie. But then when you see everything together, you're like, oh, no, we were filming the same movie.
I want to know about the conversations that happen with a film like this, and I want to know what the conversations are like with your cast versus the conversations with the directors or writers of this film, because I feel like it's excites me because the conversations, one, are going to be different than maybe your conversations you have with your cast versus your director, but two, they might happen at different times. You know what I mean? You might have
Mhm.
most of your kind of conversations with your cast like maybe before a few scenes. You're probably talking to the director before, like take me through, and maybe it changes depending on projects, but take me through the conversations during Fear Street Prom Queen for you.
When you say do you mean like specifics in the
Yeah, specifics,
conversations
chatting
or?
about certain scenes. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, is there a lot of like chat at the prom, or has that kind of happened before? Like, I'm just curious about that a little bit. You
Yeah,
know what
for
I mean?
sure.
Yeah.
So, I remember before we started filming, so we started on a Monday.
Yep.
On the, if I'm not mistaken, the Saturday of, before the Monday,
Yep.
we actually ended up doing a rehearsal day for that classroom scene. So the director could kind of get a sense. And then at the end, he kind of brought each of the groups of like the prom kings and queens together to
Yep.
kind of sit down and talk about what they thought their characters were going to be like throughout this movie. And obviously, throughout the conversation, we had our ideas and we came with our thoughts and what we figured would happen. But then on the day, a lot of things started to change, and we're like, oh, okay, we're actually doing this because it makes more sense for this part of the story versus that part of the story.
Yeah, 100%. And it makes a lot of sense. And horror movies have always been around. There's a big appetite for them. They're very, very popular now. I'm wondering what it's like for you as a storyteller diving in the world of horror movies at a time where there is a lot happening in the genre, where there is a lot of different ways to scare people. Like, do you think about that at all? Like, is it inspiring? Like, what's that like for you right now?
I'm actually loving it. I've been on my horror kick as of the last maybe like year and a half, 2 years. So I've just
Yeah.
been diving into a lot of different ones right now. And so kind of it feels almost like reminiscent of like the late 90s, early 2000s right
Yep.
now. It feels like that renaissance is kind of coming back, and I'm like, oh, like now that I'm an adult, I feel like I really get to enjoy it a lot more, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I find it interesting as well because ensemble casts, like It's interesting, right? Because you might work on something that has like 25 actors on the call sheet, but maybe you have a scene or two, like one person. With I feel like the prom, like everyone's kind of around, right? Because it's the
Yeah.
prom, right? Was that different compared to other projects where like you were really part of an ensemble cast? You know what I mean? Maybe there's another project where you show up for a scene or two, you have a line with a couple people, and then you don't cross paths with anyone. But like you got the cross paths of like a lot of people on this film. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I thought it was dope being able to act with everybody because, like you said, there are some projects you don't ever get to have any lines with certain people. Like I shot something about a year and a half ago, and there are some actors in the movie I don't ever interact with them, but we're all part of the same
Yeah,
story.
when you do interviews for the movie, like, what's it like working with that person? And you're like,
And
am
you're
I
like,
not?
I
Yeah.
never had a scene with this person at all.
Do you
But
think
with
people
this
are
one,
starting to get more privy of that now? Because I feel like that happened.
definitely.
Like, do you think that? Because like that's something that like a lot. I've seen that happen a lot. By the way, like people
Yeah.
like are like, what was it like working with this person? Like, oh, I didn't even have a chance to like talk to them at all. Like they were completely different days. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Do you think people
yeah.
are realizing that?
I think people are starting to understand there's more transparency with what the business is now,
Yep.
especially with what social media does. Because back in the day, we didn't have as much insight to things. So I think
More
people are becoming,
assumptions. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
far more assumptions. So now people are starting to understand, oh, like it takes multiple days, and sometimes people just don't ever interact with each other, but they're
Yeah,
part
but
of the
no,
same
this
movie.
one is no assumptions. You had chances to be in the same rooms of Lili Taylor and Chris Klein. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, man, it was dope. And Chris is such a great guy. I remember that day that we shot the classroom scene, and he plays the teacher, and I got to ask him some questions about just like life and the business, you know. So yeah, it's always good whenever you get those opportunities to talk to people that have been in the game for a long time. Just get a little bit of insight.
take me through, and I'm curious. I'm really excited about this answer because you talked about the lengthy process of the actual prom and that kind of bulk of the filming. Take me through that wrap day for you. Take me
Oh.
through the mindset. Is it exhausting? Do you need a break? Are you ready for the next project? Take me through that. Like, that's a wrap on Ryan Rosery for Fear Street Prom Queen. Take me through that thought process when it happens.
Yeah, I mean, my last day was also a lot of other cast members' last day,
Yep.
and it we had been together for almost 3 months, if I'm not mistaken, like two and change. And you get to know each other, you get to hang around with one another, and just like building that level of camaraderie with one another, and getting to know each other's lives, and getting to hang out and talk. It's kind of sad because you're like, oh, we're done. Like we're not coming back to this specifically. Like this is the end of it. And
Yeah.
for me personally, I was tired. Like, don't get me wrong, I was tired, but I was full of joy, and I was also energized because I'm like, wow, I just got to be a part of something so beautiful, so magnificent, so killer, pun intended.
Well
And
done.
I was like, okay, so actually did take a break. I ended up taking 5 days to myself. I went to Mexico, so I took that time. But then I was like ready to get back to work because being on set to me personally is one of the most addicting feelings. Like once you get bit by that bug, you just want to keep being on set. It's like, oh, I don't ever want this to end, but obviously everything comes to an end, you know? So it's just about making sure that you're able to enjoy it while you have it, enjoy the gift when you get it, because you don't know when the next opportunity is going to come around.
And to kind of add to that, it's funny because sometimes you could look at the job of an actor as like you're a professional auditioner. Like that's what you do, right?
Yeah.
And then when you book it, that's almost like that's like the downtime a little bit too, right?
Yeah, in a
Like if you
way. It's also trippy too, because it's like you audition, you audition, you audition, you audition, you audition. Oh, yeah, you booked it. You're like, oh shit, I actually got to do this.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
gotta,
you get to
I
do it.
gotta,
Yeah,
I gotta
absolutely.
act. Do I know how to act? Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of the weirdest thing because you're so used to just audition after audition after audition. Then when you find like you're booked, you're like, oh, I actually can now get paid to do it. Okay, so now you really gotta come up with choices. Now you really gotta like prep, and then it's so different too because when you're on a set, you're actually interacting with another actor and they have their opinions of how they think the scene looks, and then you have your opinions, but then you also have to make sure that you're listening to one another and being like present in the moment and being as truthful. So it's like the audition, oh, that's a skill on its own, but then when you get to the set, that's another set of skills, you know?
100%. Absolutely. And I can't wait for people to watch Fear Street Prom Queen worldwide on Netflix. Ryan, so great chatting with you, man. Thanks so much for coming on the show. This was awesome.
Petey, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you having me on and just, letting me talk a little bit.
Of course, man. Anytime. Instagram. Your Instagram is just your name if people want to keep up to date with everything.
Just that's it. Just Ryan Rosery. I think my TikTok is King Lord Rosery, but I mean, if you search Ryan Rosery, you should find that. I'm not as active on TikTok, honestly. I'm like still trying to figure it out how to use it more, but I'm an Instagrammer. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and Threads and X, Twitter.
Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative. Previous episodes. Until next time, this is Ryan Rosery, who plays Chad in Fear Street Prom Queen, streaming soon worldwide on Netflix. And PD Beats, signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.